Cadre fans, type 2 diabetes rescued by keto fans, super curve honing fans. Interesting video today. Got some stuff to show and tell on. I found and went ahead and secured an ancient convex hone. Now, I don't know when this was made, okay, but it says patented January 1843. And I went ahead and I searched up the patent. Okay, now this company, this was made by, there's no way of, for sure of me finding out exactly when this was made, but it does say manufactured by P.J. Ordway, Cambridge, Mass. So, and I saw this and I thought this was really, really neat. Now the patent, looking up the patent is a little different than this piece. This patent has a curved strop, and it describes this. You could look this up for W.D. Boardman, B-O-A-R-D-M-A-N, razor strop, okay? And it describes in the patent how this works, okay? And as you can see, W.D. Boardman of Rensselaerville, New York. And the date January 20th, 1843. So that's the date of this patent. And apparently what it looks like this particular gentleman did was he managed to create a device in which, with a screwing effect, that applied some pressure to a plate that would alter the curve, and that is described described here in the patent, how it alters the curve. And he didn't put a coating on that, but he made some sort of an abrasive that he would coat on there. Let me or I make a hone as above and polish it to a level surface instead of coating it, and instead of coating it, make a paste of flour of emery and oil, lard, or tallow. Okay, so he's making some sort of abrasive to put on this, but I thought this was really, really interesting. So here is what I bought. Here is the piece that I got. Okay, and I'll read the instructions on this. Like I said, I don't know when this was made. I have no idea what the date on it is, but I don't think this goes back to 1843. But it was one of the things that I document in my honing style, is that this goes back, it was documented as a style and a technique to use in a German grinder's handbook that addressed that, the use of a curved stone, and it being a way that an expert would do this. Okay, largely, I think aside from actual razor makers who would put crowns into their hones, it was largely a skill unknown, because it was really something that the average person really had no way of doing it. But back in 1843 and whenever this was made, somebody did this. Now I looked at the curve on this. Okay, now this is my strop. This is I use this a lot. It's like, okay, so the piece of leather cost me like 20 bucks, and I curved this on the Jared plate on the short dimension, and I use this an awful lot simply because I like this is a Herald leather strop. I forget what it's called, but it just has a feel and that I really like to use. Okay, so I took this and I wanted to gauge this up to that, and I looked in to see, and I find well this this hone, this, as they call it a hone, okay? It is more curvy than the shorter radius on the Jared plate. Now, when I take my real curvy, what I kind of like, what I kind of like to call the super curve hone, okay, and I put that up to it, I'm looking and I'm seeing that the curves, and let's see if I can get this in the camera here, that the curves are just about the same, okay? And I think this has a like a 1.5 foot radius. I think that's what I measured it out at, okay? And this is, you know, I have one that's this, and I have one that is curved like this on the short dimension of the Jared plate, and then my finishing stones and most of my other stuffs and my balsa strop is curved on the long dimension on the Jared plate. So the interesting thing about this, okay, and is and let me read the directions here on this. It says, first lay the strop down on the table with number 1, the hone up. And they call this a hone. So I look at this, I don't really know what this is. It is kind of hard, okay? And the only way you can determine which is which, you know, the box has numbers for the sides of the box. And yeah, you could put it in there anyway, but this top of the box is the one that shows the curvy part on it, and that is marked off as number 1. So this says, and let me put this in here to see if maybe somebody wants to do a stop motion and try and zoom in on the text there. Let's see if you can get that, and that way somebody could read that if they want to see it later on. But the directions say first lay flat, the hone up, and oil the hone. So you would put an oil on this. Again, I have no idea what that is made of, and what kind of oil would be. I assume there were common honing oils. There's certainly common cutting oils in machining in that. And I'm not so sure it's all that important. I imagine you could use an oil, an animal fat or something like that. Then hold the razor, okay. So you lay this flat on the surface, and it describes very similar to what I do, the way I picked up from watching Jared. Then hold the razor with both hands as you would a punna grindstone. Square with the strop, and in parentheses, or at right angles. Carrying the razor towards the edge and not draw it back. So it sounds like what it's telling a person to do is to take the razor and hold it in thing and make a motion edge leading. Okay, so and it also talks about making I guess like you know, back then they weren't internet aware, so they didn't understand X stroke. Okay, and carrying the razor towards the edge and not draw it back, giving it any lateral motion that the operator may see fit. So lateral motion. So, and I'm going to try and see if I can illustrate this kind of freehand here. Okay, but and I initially wondered, well, is this something somebody came up to work into the hollow of it? And the answer to that is obviously no, because you can see that this is not curvy enough to get up into the hollow. I'm hoping that kind of shows that, but it does reach out to and come back away from the apex of the edge, and does do what I have called a back bevel. Okay, so you're going to take this, and you're going to take this curvy part here, and you are going to, and I'll see if I can do this so you can see. And now there's no oil on there, and this is rough. It looks like it'd been patched, and it looked like it'd been hacked up there and whatever. So this is not something that I would imagine that I could ever use and get effective results on, but it does look used, and it does look like somebody may have gotten some effective results on it. But so you're going to do a motion like that. Okay, so you're going to say perpendicular to there, and you are going to cut in a back bevel, similar, very, very similar to the method that I use to do this, and the method as described in the Ancient Grinder's Handbook, German Grinder's Handbook. Interpret. There was the published English interpretation, courtesy of that great gentleman from Norway, JPO. So that's interesting there. And I had often thought, well, okay, so people may want to do this. They may want to do this convex honing or super curve honing. Okay, now to differentiate super curve honing from super corner honing, there is a guy who out there, and he's an engineer, so don't argue with an engineer, but he says he can do his super curve honing, and he takes these pictures and puts them all over the internet of a razor like this. Now he never makes a video demonstrating it, but he says there's no difference between this and this. Okay, so but he's one of the guys that you should listen to. Okay, and listen to whatever he says and understand that. Yeah, you know where I'm going at on that. Okay, so if he's BSing about this and this and talking like he knows what he's talking about, what else does he say that is a bunch of baloney? Okay, so here it is, the convex hone and razor strop combined, manufactured for the U.S. Navy and Army. Okay, so I would imagine that there are more of these around somewhere. I don't know. I found it manufactured by F.J. Ordway, Cambridge, Mass. And there it describes the patent date. Okay, so apparently this, although being different than the description of the adjustable one here, where this plate becomes adjustable, okay, it does apparently fall under, and I don't know how you want to make something and make it a little different than the patent. You know, apparently this is, maybe you had to pay some rights to it, or maybe that's where you got the idea from. Okay, but this does have 4 abrasive sides. Okay, and I did run a razor on there to gauge on this, and it's on the instructions. And on the instructions it says, if the razor has been honed upon a straight hone heretofore, there is a blunt edge. This will have to be taken down to the convex of the hone number 1. So that's correct. The convex hone is number 1. The convex, so my assumption there on this number 1 is correct. So the first step would be to use the super curve. And this is the ancient super curve. So the first step would be this, okay? And then the second step, and they go, unlike the procedure outlined in the German Grinder's Handbook, they go directly to a flat. Because I checked the other sides of this, and they, you know, and this is a flat reference. You know, I've not done anything to this. It's as it comes from Dan's Whetstone, okay? And, you know, I mean, you could go this way, and you could, you know, I don't have a straight edge, but largely you have 3 sides that are flat and 1 that is the super curve. So after it says take it down to the convex, and these people really should have been the ones to patent the name super curve. Okay, when the edge is produced, okay, so you're gonna develop some sort of a method to come up with an apex, whether it be the thumbnail or you know, a thumb pad, or you'll cutting hair, you'll do something with this. And I would love to have one of these in mint condition to just to play with it, just to try with it. Okay, so when the edge is produced, then apply the razor to paste number 2. That's interesting. A few strokes, then to number 3, finishing upon number 4. Use sweet oil upon the hone and wipe the hone after using it. Paste in the end of strop, but not needed for years. So this was interesting. They had a little thing to apply paste. It's red. I imagine it's a what will be called a jeweler's rouge or an iron oxide abrasive. Okay, but I could find the orientation on what was 2 and 3 by the box. Okay, so I would go this side and then this side, and this does the, you know, I don't know if it says use a stropping motion. Let's see what kind of sound I get. It does. I can hear there's still an abrasive there, and then go to 1, 2, 3 would be the other side. This does sound a little less abrasive, and the final side, number 4, it does sound the least abrasive. Now, I don't know if they are all hones. It does look like this last one on the bottom, step 4. There's a little bit of a dig in there, so I don't know if that's actually a leather there. Again, I'm not sure. You know, the sides could be different leathers but you know, why would you have 3 different things and put the same paste on all of them and have them all be of the same substrate base? So that was just a cool thing that I wanted to share that I found. So for those who are the haters, okay, of where am I at? Okay, of the convex hone. Okay, there it is. There it is. This is very old. So the next time you watch some guy with a video and he's sitting there and he's taking his stones and he's taking his precision flattening diamond plate or whatever, and he's flattening the stones, and the next time he says, that guy Jared down there at Superior Shave, he just don't get it. Okay, you know what? That guy gets it more than most of these people, okay? Because there was somebody that was trying to tell him, as a person who was interested in selling razors, how the proper way to sharpen these razors is, okay? And he's taken quite a beating for it. I've taken my beating for it from people that thought they knew, and somebody that said, I flattened. I remember the first time I posted up about something like this. Oh, they should be flattened. I have honed this way. This is the way things have been honed for 200 years. That dude. Okay, dude. There's the patent. Okay, so why don't you change your story a little bit and try and get it straight. So that's that. This has been an interesting thing for me. And speaking of flattening stones, okay. something, I don't know if I mentioned this on a video or not, but a long time ago, I remember reading something that that Lynn Abrams, who many would consider Lynn Abrams to be the godfather of the modern revival of the straight razor, and a lot of the things that he did in terms of teaching was because he was selling razors. He was selling shaving supplies and straight razors. And if you buy a straight razor, eventually you are going to need to hone it. You're going to need to sharpen it up. And I've shaved off of one of his edges, and he was a terrific honer, probably one of the best of the professional honers that I'd shaved off their edges. And but I read, and I could dig this up. I could dig up the reference to this. It's there. I know I could dig it up. I know I could find it. Okay, it's kind of immaterial to me because I know it's there. And I remember when there was a discussion. There was a discussion about flatness of the hones, and where somebody had asked him, about how often do you flatten your hone, and he says, I have honed many thousands of razors on hones that were, and here's the description, here's the cool, I thought, I love this, that were mostly flat. So there you go. That's it here for the biggest, maybe not the biggest super curve. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm the only one that uses this. Yeah, I'm a super curve fanboy. That's for sure, because this is a way that I find, for me. I'm not, if you're gonna shave with one of these, it's my opinion, you got to learn how to sharpen it. Okay, there's people that don't. Okay, but it is my opinion, you got to learn how to sharpen it some way to make you happy. Okay, and I wish there was a company that made a gizmo like this. Okay, because even though this does not match up exactly to what I do with multiple curves and changes the level of abrasives, I'm trying to chase very, very closely as I can. I'm not sticking totally to it, but I'm trying to chase the writings in the Ancient Grinder's Handbook pretty closely. If I had a time machine, I'd love to take that 6/8 Ti that I honed up and sent around to a number of people, and they really like. I'd like to take it in a time machine back to that German grinder and say, "Hey, shave with this, buddy. Tell me what you think." I think that would be fun. But I think it would be really, really neat. A simple thing like this, okay? And this was not, if this was made for the manufactured for the U.S. Navy and Army, okay? Now, was this for officers, or was for enlisted personnel? At what point? I just really don't know. Okay. But I would imagine that they would sell something like this at a relatively affordable cost for a person to buy and find some way to maintain the straight razors. And I would think in the early 1900s and the late 1800s, I would think that shaving was not the hobby aspect that we look at it today, where we pride ourselves on how we hydrate our face and the soaps we use and the edges we create and the razors we use and how fancy they are. There might have been people that of wealth that would do fancy, that kind of stuff. But I think for many, and certainly Army, Navy people, this would have been a functional grooming thing, a routine type thing, like it was in not quite so much in modern days. I think it started there was always a certain amount of people that I recall that would wear a beard. I do remember, because I had one for the longest time, and many people called it the Don Johnson look, okay, from Miami Vice, where he was the guy who would always, he kind of made it popular and acceptable to have the 5 o'clock shadow and to not be clean shaven. And you know, for most of my life, actually, that's what I wore, and I would cut it in. I would have that facial hair, and you know, and I've recently clipped this off because, you know, it was getting kind of gray and like the rest of it. But the popularity today, and this is January 19th, 2023. The popularity today with beards, with you know, the beards, and you wear the beard oils, and you do all this grooming, and you buy special brushes for your beard, and that's all okay. You know, I still kind of view that as a fad, but I don't know. I you know, was listening to somebody not too long ago that talked about tattoos and you know, and how he had always, yeah, I think it was Bill Maher who said he'd always thought, well, this was a fad, and he says it's just a growing fad. It started with a tattoo on your arm, and it's going up, and it's, you know, it's like this growing fad, and maybe the big bushy beards are not a fad. Okay, I just for me, if they weren't close and clean, they look kind of scraggly, although there are guys that have good full bushy beards that they groom, and they don't have that scraggly look. So my commercial for the Shaving Cadre, www.theshavingcadre.com. Please go there, look in. I consider it the greatest shave forum on the face of the earth. They specialize in not having the masters of the beatdown who because you have decided you want to hone your razor with something like this, your stuff, you want to buy your stuff, and there are people who and they're in most of the other forums, and you can find them, who will deliver the beatdown. Just Google up Convex hones and see what happens. And go into one of them and post a thread and says, what is this super curve honing? And see what kind of results you get. The Shaving Cadre is the only one where you're allowed to talk about that. And that's not that is their total focus. Their total focus is gentlemanly pursuits of many, many different things. And the people that are there are intensely diverse in many of their interested backgrounds. When I went to the first Cadre convention, it amazed me that a stupid thing like how you cut the hair off your face could really, really bring this really, really diverse group of people together. And as friends who had, many of them had just never really, you know, we'd seen each other on videos and we interact with our posts and that kind of stuff, but it was like getting together with a bunch of good old friends. So it is my recommendation, my high recommendation, and this is Bill for myself. Out. Hope you all have a great week. Bye.